Hello, guys.
Hello.
And welcome to another episode of
Sharpened Insights.
Yeah, we're so excited and so blessed to have this episode, and we have one of our favorite couple at church, man. It's a great honor to have them here.
Yeah, we're so excited and we're so happy to have you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, you're looking forward to get sharpened, and I'm telling you, these guys have a lot of knowledge, and damn, we look up to them. So
Y'all gonna be too sharp after this episode.
you better be ready. Better go take some notebook and write some notes. I'm telling you, it's a lot of gems that are gonna come here. I'm telling you for sure. Anyway, we're gonna start with you. You introduce yourself and tell our audience your name, where you're from, and how long you've been in China.
Hi, I'm Aisha Moffett, and we have been in China 5.5 years, actually. We started in 2019, my husband did, and then my son and I joined in 2020. And I'm originally from the U.S., and we have been married for 19 years this year. July 1st. Wow.
Man, that went fast.
Time flies when you're having fun and when you're not.
Come on.
Word. We're going to be honest.
Right.
Yep.
We're gonna keep
That's
it
what I
real.
like. We're gonna keep it real.
Keep it real. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, guys.
Raphael Moffett, originally from Washington State. Like I said, we've been here 5.5 years. It'll be 6 in September. It went fast. It was like pre-COVID, COVID, and then, years went past, after that super quick. So it's gone by fast, but it's been a really, really good ride. And we are, year 19. We got to do something dope.
Or 25.
It's a milestone.
No. We not waiting until 25. We doing something dope for 20.
Look,
For sure.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
How's been the process the whole 19 years so far?
Wow.
Man, it's gone quick. And, we're going to be transparent because I think, first of all, I think it's really good that young couples are trying to glean insight from a lot of different couples, as you're in year 2, going into year 2.
Yeah, almost year 2.
And this just wasn't a space that I guess was made available to us when we were young, so we were trying to figure it out. We had people we could call and all that, but I mean, it's kind of like a life hack. You can sit down with couples, and just kind of download like, I'm going to take that. Let me avoid that. Or, so I think this is really good, a good mechanism and a good platform to do that. So, like I said, we're looking up to y'all because this is way smarter than what we doing for sure.
I think it is. It's really great. And, you asked how it's gone. We were joking when we said time has flown since we've been married. But I think like life just unfolds. And literally my mom just sent a care package back with my husband. He was in the U.S. And she sent my bridal shower invitation and some other pieces from our wedding. And there's like this agenda and there's like this, you're invited and everything. And I'm like,
Wow.
It feels like in a way that feels like just yesterday that we were talking about that, designing that and everything. But then it seems really, really far away as well. And there's so much to unpackage in that time. I mean, like you go through really, really, really fruitful years. You go through very lean years. You're learning each other in those early stages of marriage and growing together. I feel like that we have grown more. Like, I feel like we're more of a couple now than we were then. Like, you're some of the things like, I can order food for him. I can say, Raphael's going to probably want to do this. And I just like know who he is and how he flows. But I mean, we've gone to the, like, we've dealt with infertility problems. He's had, he's a cancer survivor. We've moved 5 times in our marriage. Most of those were in the U.S. and then abroad. We've gotten stuck in another country during COVID. And there's just so much of life that we look around and even like, we look and our parents are even getting older and they're like, I look at those wedding pictures of who they were then. And now it's like we're checking on them in a different way.
Yeah.
And we're going through like that kind of life stage, just raising a preteen. And everything like that, their baby years. And all of a sudden you're like, we've been married 19 years, but there's a lot that's happened during that time that has really just developed us as a married couple, and you know how God designed it for us to really be one.
Wow.
Amen.
Yeah. You know, it's like the short version is, it's going to sound very simple, but this is very true. Like marriage in and of itself it's good when it's good, it's bad when it's bad, and sometimes it is what it is. And what I mean is, like, you got to ride the wave when it's good to make sure you maximize these moments and and momentum and things that are going really good. And then when it's bad, because of life, because of me, because of her, because of us, like, and those, and I said it like that on purpose because, you know, in the beginning, it will seem like, you know, good moments are just supposed to happen. No, like I have to create a good moment. She has to create a good moment. And then we have to create good moments because life is going to happen. And you're going to be like, man, where's the good stuff? It's like, it goes away. It's not dating, you know, where you're constantly trying to create, or you can't just focus on creating great moments because you go your separate ways, you know. And then when it's not so good, it's all right, is this something that I've created, something that she's created, something that we've created? And you have to kind of unpack that and go, all right, that's Raphael, that's on you. So you got to go sit with that and figure that out, you know. And then in the middle, when it is what it is, like we're married and our parents are getting older, that just happens in marriage. And so like, how do we make adjustments to that? Or
how do you navigate it? And
yeah. So like it is great when it's great. It's bad when it's bad. And then sometimes things just happen in the course of marriage that are just that happen to all couples, you know, and you got to kind of figure out how to navigate it to never have I don't even think we would want to have a perfect marriage. I think having a healthy marriage is the key. You know what I mean?
Healthy.
I think that's the goal, you know, and in a Christian standpoint, healthy in the sense that God has, you know, described and prescribed marriage to be, but like healthy is ultimately the goal.
Perfect it
would be boring.
Yeah, we're imperfect beings, you know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, the word even says that we were born in sin and shapen in iniquity. We're always struggling against that, that sinful nature inside of ourselves. So that's like, we're always like, you know, on a topic today, you know, having to work on forgiveness, which is the simplest form of Christianity. Like we literally are Christians because someone forgave us, but still as human beings, that's a struggle, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, those things are just, it's like constantly, and, you know, just forgiveness and just constant love. You have to be intentional in these times, and you can't take each other for granted. Like Raphael is a good gentleman. I mean, he's always had a great relationship with his mom. And to this day, and he's teaching our son this, he still opens the door for me. He doesn't let me carry my bags. He's like, I got that, you know, and things like that. And sometimes if I'm not careful, I'll forget to say thank you. But I try to still, like, if he irons my clothes, I'm like, thank you for doing that 19 years later, because I don't want to ever take the things that he does for granted, right? You have to be intentional because it's like that nature of just feeling like comfortable. And then you can that can develop into something even negative in marriage if you're not careful. So you have to be super intentional with each other about anything, whether it's spending time, having conversation, even some of the hard ones and things like that. And you can't take each other for granted because there are things like I'm automatically going to get up and make breakfast. And he's automatically going to open the door. And I know that he'll run down. He ran downstairs this morning and got like some groceries that were because we had to go to our front desk because they don't bring it to our door. And you just have to remember to just say thank you. And I'll even say, did I tell you thank you for that?
Yeah, because you'll get used to it.
It's just like, oh, he did that. And you never know. You could start feeling like, you know, she's getting too used to it or he's getting too used to it. And you don't want to take each other for granted. So these are just things you learn along the way. So
yeah, I like that. I really like that. But before we move on, we just want to say a short prayer. Just over the podcast, I would like Mr. Raphael, if you did the honors, just a short prayer over our session too.
Whitney, Mr. Raphael sounds really old.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'm gonna start calling this is
like I'm the principal.
I'll say to be honest, I call everybody Mr. Even Khalil, I'll call him Mr. Khalil. So yeah. So don't take offense. You still young. You still young.
I'm joking.
So funny.
Lord, bless Winnie. No, I'm joking. God, we love you. We thank you. We praise you for all that you are, not just what you do and what you've done, Lord. We ask that you just bless this conversation today. Hopefully, we all learn from each other on how to be better, how to be more like you instead of more like ourselves, Lord. So we ask that you would have us decrease in this conversation and have your will for our lives increase so that we can just do your will and live our lives by your scriptures and how you've already prescribed for us to walk this walk of marriage, Lord, to the best of our ability. So we love you, we thank you, and we praise you. And we are already going to put in the air that this is going to be the #1 podcast in the world.
Yes.
For couples to,
Let it be so.
Go to have a platform where couples can go to get healthy information for their life, their personal lives, and their marriages. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Man, you guys already dropped so many nuggets already. And I I think both of you guys kind of said, in marriage, there are ups and downs. And I actually really like that because, I don't know, I think even recently I kind of learned that. I mean, I know that there's ups and downs and I've, even seen my parents' marriage, but I don't know. I feel like we know that there's ups and downs, but a lot of people don't know that it's normal. And it's more about like how you navigate it, not that it's happening. Like I think a lot of us think like, okay, if it's happening, then it's already done. Maybe we're not good for each other or something's wrong or something like that. I think that's kind of the mentality. And I really like that you guys, it seems like you're saying it's more about, it's okay if it's happening, but it's about being intentional. And like you said, like right today, our topic is about forgiveness. So I have a question. So going through the ups and downs, would you say like forgiving is like integral part of getting through those humps of the ups and of the, maybe when you're in the lows, how do you feel like forgiveness plays in maybe getting over those humps when you're on the low side?
It absolutely is. I think that my personal thought is that people may stay together and remain married if they don't forgive. Like they may not go their separate ways, but you can like emotionally and mentally and physically go your separate ways if you don't forgive in your marriage. Like forgiveness is the reset button. The hard part about forgiveness, I think, is that you're going, okay, I forgive you for doing this thing, intentional or not, which means there's a reset and it's going to happen again. I don't think people necessarily it doesn't get under their skin that they need to ask for forgiveness or need to be forgiven like one time. It's no, this is going to happen over the course. Like when people are together for like 40 and 30 years and all this stuff, people look at them and go, man, they must have had a ton of like great years. And they probably, they had to have some great years. But how many times have you had to forgive each other to get to the point where you can sit next to each other in church and not want to choke each other? You know what I mean? And, or be bitter about something, like there's this reciprocity that happens in marriage that I think is absolutely necessary. And forgiveness, the two cornerstones of the Christian experience, forgiveness and love. Yeah. And you have to teeter between forgiveness and love all the time when you're riding that high, when it is what it is, and when it's low. Like those two things don't change. We just have to commit to those things constantly being in the mix. And it may be harder to get to it depending on the dynamics. But I think if a couple recognizes like these two things have to be in the mix all the time, or we're just going to drift and kind of orbit each other, for years. And that's not, like anybody is like, we've been together 19 years and we just been drifting around each other 19 years. Like, yeah. I don't really think that is anything to tip our hat at. But like, if we're constantly doing the work to forgive, Aisha has to forgive me, I have to forgive her, we have to forgive ourselves. And I think that's a piece that,
wow, like, I never actually really heard that. And wow, yeah. Keep going. That's good. Yeah.
We come from, I don't know what it's like to come from a home like where two parents weren't divorced. I have a bit of a model. So my biological parents got divorced when I was 7. And so my mom got married shortly after that to my stepdad, and they've been together almost 40 years. So I'm a product of divorce. And so I have to fight against that dynamic, you know, in my life. And I've also been able to see what longevity looks like, you know, with my mom being married to my dad. And I have a great relationship with both my dads. But again, it's a dynamic that I have to fight against. And so I'm like, all right, I'm operating to some degree out of a deficit. And I think like early on, I tried to, after I got mad and said something very stupid and then had to go back to the, you know, sitting in the car, and I was like, dog, you're tripping. Like I had to go like, I don't know. Like there was several times early on where I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like I have a couple mentors and stuff, but I didn't grow up in a home where it was like my mom and my dad, and they just flowed for 40, 50 years. And it was like, well, I could ask them. They got through it. Like that wasn't the case, you know? And so I would ask my stepdad, and they've been together forever, but like that initial dynamic of two people being together and just riding it out, like most couples that are operating from some sort of situation where the dynamics in the home were not as healthy as they should be, or there was divorce, we're shooting from what we think we know, which is a recipe for forgiveness to be in the middle of it, because we're constantly dropping balls, not understanding that, you know, or guessing at things rather than having a playbook for them.
Yeah, when I think about your question, man, so many things go through my mind. But one of the things is, it's like, I came from a space of being a very forgiving person into marriage. In fact, I remember someone telling me that like you have a ministry of forgiveness, because I had been hurt by people and I was always like, just kumbaya, like embracing them. Mm-hmm. And then I got married and all of a sudden I felt like I struggled with it. And I think when we think about forgiveness, it's like, oh, just forgive and you talk about it. But like Raphael is saying, it's not a one-time thing. I don't think we ever, either one of us, took into account how many times you have to forgive. It's an ongoing journey. Every day, little things. Some things are known and some things are not even known, because there's things you may not even speak about. And I don't, I always talk about that scripture in the Bible where it says to forgive 70 times 7. Like no one's keeping count with little tick marks to get to that, number in the hundreds. But God was just like, and forgive again, and forgive again, and forgive again. And I think that part was like challenging for me, because this is the thing. It was easy for me to forgive people who were outside, but you become one with a person, and the emotions and feelings that I have for Raphael, I will tell a woman, like, I have never been so mad. I have never been so sad. I wasn't even a jealous person. And all of a sudden I'm like, what she say? Like all of a sudden, like this, I'm not like that now, but like people, my friends that knew me when I was dating, like they were like, you are like the least jealous person that I've ever met. Like I'd be gone for summers with my dad. I have a very similar dynamic, except that my dad got remarried and I was raised by my mom as a single mom. But my mom was literally like a gold standard example of forgiveness, and just has a heart of forgiveness and everything. And I was raised by her, so it was easy for me to forgive. And so, we come together and all of a sudden I have these deep emotions because I'm connected to this person in a different way. And for me, it was the first time in my life that I really, really struggled with forgiveness. I would want to hold on things because I'm thinking, I love this person so much. I can't believe that he hurt me, or even whether it was intentional or not. And I have to figure out, like you said, without any kind of tools or playbook, how to get past this like shock or emotion, or, like I didn't have the marriage. I wasn't in the home with the marriage. I was in the home with a single mom. So all of a sudden I had to learn how to navigate that. And it was different. It was really, really different. And it was hard because I really love God and I knew what he expected of me. But when people say this is not cliche. Like Raphael and I are at 19 years because we have God and we had that foundation. And I'm so thankful for it, because one of the things that is our common denominator that we neither one of us played with is the altar and the word of God. And if we ever go back to that, it would get us back on point. You know what I mean? But we definitely have operated in our humanness. And so I think during those hard times, just remembering like his word and that, our vows. And sometimes I think early on, it took longer sometimes to get around. Like I think we did Like we don't even like really do like no whole silent treatment. So we used to go like weeks. Like, I don't know about weeks, but like a week or or so.
Weeks.
And well, one time we went like weeks, and we were just like, you get the milk, you know what I mean?
Just going around each other, not really engaging.
You know what I mean? Did you pay that bill? You know what I mean? So that kind of thing. To now where we can just kind of talk through things a little bit more and easier just to say, you know what, I'm sorry, that, quicker. But yeah, I just think that remembering that forgive again. And you still haven't made it to 70 times 7 and you still in this day. Yeah. And what is God's will for you? And it's hard because, like I said at the onset of this, we are struggling against our human flesh and our will and our desires. And we want to guard ourselves against what feels like pain. And you have to remember, like, we are one, we are a team. Like even in times when we've been like disagreeing, he'll say, I'm not against you, I'm for you. We're on the same side. And we have to remember that, and how you get to be back on the same side is to forgive.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. I want to just go back a little bit because we might help other people, like what is forgiveness, to just define just in short terms, because other people may not know. Yes, we can start to say, what do you think when you hear about that word forgiving?
Well, I think it doesn't mean maybe that you forget, because I think a lot of people, when they hear forgiveness, they automatically think, okay, I forgive them, so I just maybe forget it. And I think it's okay to feel the emotions. It's like maybe if you felt like you were wronged by someone, it's okay to feel those emotions. It's okay to express those emotions. But I feel like forgiveness is a choice that you make. And it's kind of like, in the Bible, it says like, keep no records of like wrongdoings. I don't know. I think it's have more to do with actions, to be honest. Because you can say that you forgive someone, but let's say you keep bringing up the situation, or you still have like an ongoing bitterness towards them, then maybe you haven't really forgive them in your heart. So I think forgiveness, it's more of an action than to say you do it. I think it's more of an action of just. That's a hard one, but I think it just has to do it with actions and making sure you don't keep that record and always bring it up all the time, because that shows to me that you haven't really forgive them. And maybe there are some other strategies you can do, maybe talk with them to work through whatever, is going on. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. So when you were saying that, Caleb, I was looking at the definition. I'm an English major by like training. I didn't like math, so I decided to be an English major to write paper. That's really the life hack. But it says forgiveness is when you stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. So now, like for an offense, something that has happened to us that offended us, right? Like you did this, it hurt, or I did this, it hurt you, offense. And then the other one is a flaw. When two people get married, if you don't, let me look in the camera. If you don't realize this, we're all walking into this flawed and broken and messed up and all of the stuff. And for all of the great things that you are as a boyfriend or girlfriend and will be as a husband, and it's about you will be all of the other things too. So, the flaws will be there, and then the mistakes, and so mistakes, I think, are the easiest part to get to your point, Winnie, like the action. So like if I resent Ash, if I'm angry at Ash, then my actions they're going to be out of that place, which is wrong, which prevents me from getting to forgiveness. But if I can try to get over anger, especially for men, I think is like a very familiar emotion, but it's one that we can get in and out of relatively quickly. Like when we flash, it's scary. We can't stay there and remain in a marriage. I just don't think that that's feasible. I think the marriage will be irrevocably broken if men are just perpetually angry all the time. People may not go two separate ways, but it will be broken. you know? And so I think that the part that is difficult are the flaws. Like at the end of the day, I can think that I am perfect and have it all together, but that's not true, you know? And if we can realize that, man, I'm flawed in whatever way that is probably very different. Like we're probably very different in how we're flawed, you know, in ways, but God forgives us every day. So I'm allowed to remain a Christian, a Christ-like person, or trying to pursue that because of the forgiveness. So I think that like forgiveness, it's about like not holding on to the anger, but the resentment.
Yeah.
Because resentment is like
it's like a seed.
It's like a slow simmer on the stove when you're making the roux.
Yeah.
You know, like
you're going to Louisiana. Yeah.
And burning the roux. You got to kind of keep it on a temperature that makes sense. But you go in there and you make it and then but the temperature has to be low. That's the same thing as resentment. Resentment is not this flashpoint. That's the anger, you know, and we can get out of the anger, but the resentment is something that can live in our heart. It can live in our head. It can live in our emotions. It can live in, you know, those dark corners that we don't express, but we have to try to like get that out of our system.
Yeah. And I feel like the longer you let it sit, the harder it is to get out of it.
Yeah. Fruits. Yeah. That's really good. I want to know like some steps that can help people to forgive, like steps, because I think like, for example, grace really plays a part in some steps to forgive. Like you have to show your partner, your spouse, whether your family members, grace while you're forgiving, and also building trust. Because after you forgive, you also have to kind of like build the relationship in some way. Sometimes you don't have to build the relationship. You just have to forgive and move on. But like we are talking about like in a marriage, that means you still have to need your partner. So you don't have to move on and leave them, I guess. So I want to know like some of the steps that can really help.
Yeah, because I'm sure like, because I think like you said, you know, earlier in your marriage, maybe you go a week or two or whatever without talking and stuff. And of course, it might not be perfect, but you said, you know, like you've kind of moved past that kind of stage at least. So what were some things that maybe helped you to get past some of those early like hurdles when it came to forgiveness?
You know, Caleb said something actually when he had asked that previous question. And I was thinking like forgiveness is like, I like metaphors. It's like a trust fall. It's like literally like a trust fall, just to simplify it.
Like that.
Like
write it down.
It's like at this point, every time I forgive, it's like I'm falling forward with my eyes closed and trusting that like Raphael's going to catch me. So in terms of maybe a step is one thing is just making the decision like I'm hurt or I feel this way, but I think that we're at a place where it's like I can, you know, like my feelings are hurt. And sometimes I'll say, I want to talk to you. And he's like, oh, Lord, what is it? But, you know, I think it's like first acknowledging the fact that, you know, we making a decision, like you said, it's a decision to forgive. And then I think it's good to communicate. Like, I think it's really good for you to go to the person that you are married to and say, this hurt me, this bothered me, I don't feel comfortable, or I was hurt. Because sometimes we hold people accountable for what they don't know. And we hold it inside. And it's like, it's different. Like it's, if they do it knowingly, but sometimes the things that hurt us or that they have done, they don't even understand that it's really something that's hurt because we get closed off. It's like we don't want to communicate. So I think first acknowledging, okay, I'm hurt or this bothers me, making a decision to forgive. And then I feel like you should go to the person and talk to them and say it. And that's where the trust fall is, because you have to be very vulnerable and you have to kind of like open up and say, this hurt me and this is how I feel. And I think it's good. I don't feel like we always do this, but I do feel like that there are times in this stage of our marriage where it's like, if you know, we'll ask for forgiveness sometimes before the other person even has to say it. And to say, oh, I didn't know that hurt you, or please forgive me. It was like this is so super small, but this just happened. Yeah. So this is like real time. I mean, like, And Raphael is not like super laid back. He wouldn't have held a grudge against this, but we were traveling recently and he wanted to take he knows what it is. He wanted to take a jumbo taxi because we had these big bags that we needed to put in. And I was like, it's expensive. I'm always like thinking about, I'd rather move, budget the money we like to eat and shop and do all this other kind of stuff. Why am I going to spend, whatever the denomination is in this country more for this big taxi when this one has a hatch? And so he's worried. Of course, he has tennis shoes and they're like squishing his suitcase in the hatch.
You got to keep them clean.
It was days later. And I thought in that moment, Khalil was there, and we do try to model forgiveness to our son. But it was on the way back to the airport. I got a bigger taxi, so I recognized he was frustrated. He was like, "I was gonna get one, now they squished it, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to lay stuff flat in my suitcase." And he kind of communicated that it bothered him. But then we had a wonderful time, and it didn't come back up. But on the way back, I looked in front of my son and said, "I want you to ask you for forgiveness. You said that you didn't want that. You wanted to take this bigger taxi or bigger vehicle. And I just want you to know that, I heard you and I should have listened to you then. And please forgive me for, pushing the other direction." Super small, but once again, not taking for granted that was something that bothered him. And so I think that having that conversation and verbally saying either, "Will you forgive me?" or actually saying, "I forgive you." I mean, we don't do that every single time. It's not robotic or anything.
The words matter, though.
It does matter.
The words matter.
It matters. And I think it's important to hear. And even with our son, if we make a mistake, we'll say, I made a mistake and mommy and our daddy was wrong. I'm sorry.
Man, this is so powerful because if many parents have to communicate with their kids and ask forgiveness, I think most of the kids will be very, very in a different place better. Because most of the parents, they're very prideful to ask forgiveness, to just admit to their kids, like, I'm sorry.
Even if they're wrong. And it kind of goes back to like your trust fall analogy, especially like, I know, like you said, you don't always have to do it, but just every now and then taking that initiative to ask for forgiveness, it kind of makes it easier to fall back for the other person. Like if you've already put in the work and they see, okay, this person actually cares and they see me, they hear me, it makes it easier for the other person to kind of fall back and trust you when you apologize. So that's powerful. Yeah.
That's really, really good. I want to just talk for a little bit, then we can cross. Like, what are some of the benefits of forgiveness in marriage? Because I think for me, like, I see it like after you forgive your partner, there's trust built. You can build trust through that, and also just have that emotional connection with your spouse. So I want to know like some of the benefits of forgiving your spouse.
I mean, before you go, I just want to say one word. I do think that there's a good amount of freedom. Like you feel freedom in the spaces you occupy, because you heard these analogies over and over about how forgiveness hurts you more than the other person. And there is a bit of a bondage that happens to you as an individual because you're holding on to something and not forgiving, but it also really, really binds up the marriage too. And you don't have freedom. So that's,
Yeah. No, that's that. And I think we've seen people that choose to hold on to bitterness, and not just necessarily in marriage, but like we've seen people that there's situations and it's like, man, you got to forgive them and let that go. But they've turned into a completely different person than who we knew. And it's like, it's that thing you're holding on to. It's literally turned you into somebody else. And in some cases turned them away from God, and it's like, you got to get over yourself and get over that thing. One of my closest friends, growing up, his mom used to tell him like, I don't know why you think about that girl. She not thinking about you no more. If like they broke up or something, like, why you spending your time thinking about them? They ain't thinking about you. And, when you in your teenage years and all that stuff, you're like, she not thinking about me, but it hurts your feelings. But that's it. When he said that, I thought about something like unforgiveness is like holding somebody hostage over something that they may not even be thinking about anymore. But that root of bitterness is just like churning and literally turning us into different people. So we were on a path to be healthy and on a path to be whole and on a path to do something, the bitterness that turns into resentment, that turns into inaction, in the marriage, it can literally change who you want to be for years, and so we have to check that and get that, under control so that we don't turn into a person that is going to harm, ourselves and our kids and our spouses in the marriage. I think that part is critical. So we've seen it like in real, and it can happen, where people just hold on to this stuff too long and it turns them away. I think, the benefits is you get closer, you do build trust. And I think the person, our spouses, understand that there's accountability in the marriage that doesn't necessarily have to come from a long drawn out conversation or let me bring this up, or like we can check ourselves and go, you know what, that's on me. I'm like, if I offended you, I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention, or I offended you. That's on me. I got to do better. Like, it doesn't feel good all the time to do that. But the more I've done it, the less I think about how I feel in the moment. Is it the right thing to do? If it's the right thing to do, then you need to do it. And if I'm struggling with doing it, then I'm cutting off availability, like emotional availability, psychological availability, physical availability. And so those are the benefits that should come from two people being able to say, I'm sorry, forgive me. You sorry? Yep. Okay, we're good. And trying to do the work to get on a much better path, knowing that the thing might happen again.
That's the thing right there. That's the thing.
For me, this is the strat. Getting back to Caleb, what you asked about as far as strategy, for me, it's taking inventory. Like, God, who am I not to forgive somebody else when you forgive me of my foolishness every single time? So let's just be honest and start there, and if you can forgive me and I need your grace and your mercy every day, who am I not to extend that to the person that's closest to me? Like how shameful is that? Like it's a human emotion not to do that, but I can't sustain that, because at the point where God actually didn't do that for me, then I'd have oh, well, you're not doing that. So now but that's not the case. We have the ultimate case study in forgiveness and love and restoration. Mm-hmm. So like the formula's there. I don't have the right not to extend that. So that's the thing right there. That's the one tool for me. God, you do it for me. And if I don't ask for forgiveness at some point in time, I'm going to need it. So why don't I just, this has to be reciprocity, over and over and over again. That's the glue in all of this. It's not the vacations. It's not the high times. It's not the gifts. It's not the meal out. It's none of that stuff. It's in these moments. How much do I value Aisha over what my emotions and the stuff that I've done, or the stuff intended or not? Like there's a minister at my church back home. When we first got married, I went with, and here's another strategy. Go talk to couples who are much older and have way more years. Like I was in the old guy choir. Like I was 20 years old and the guys in the choir were 60. And
you knew that was game. That was game.
Because they sitting around the choir rehearsal man, let me tell you about this insurance. I'm like, insurance? What are you talking about? Dental plan? So, but if you hang around people that have done what you're trying to do, they give you some game that can help you avoid some stuff, or just know that, yep, I did that. Oh, okay, I can get over. So I think that.
But while you're there, just really quick, he mentioned about accountability, and then he's talking about being around, the older couples, the tried and true couples. It's Raphael's mentor, and I've kind of, adopted him as a mentor here and there too, said something to us early in our marriage. He said, find people that are not for you, that are not for him, because you're going to have those friends that are like, girl, what did he do to you? Or, boy, oh man, she's tripping. find some people in your life that are for your marriage. So they're going to take you out of the equation and look, and especially to add another layer where we're sitting, someone that understands the importance of having God in your marriage and what he wants for your marriage. So when you speak to them, they're not going to have any emotional attachment to you or your spouse.
Yeah,
Right.
not have
They're
that
going to have an
bias.
attachment to what God has called you as, to be as a union.
And it's gonna make you mad.
Yeah. Because the
But
thing
that's
is,
good.
it is good. Because I mean, like I used to call one of my closest friends, and she's definitely ride or die for me. And told Raphael at our reception not to hurt me or she'd stomp a mud hole. And one time she's real. She said that's her, right? But at one point, she's for our marriage. And one point I called her and she just put me in check and said, "You're wrong. You need to go to him and you need to do this and this. You're wrong. I don't want it. What you're saying to me is not sitting right in my spirit about who you should be in the marriage, And so that was somebody who loved our marriage more than they loved us because they knew where God was calling us to be. So, and the other thing that I want to say about a forgiveness journey in marriage is that no matter what, there's not a matter of if, there's a matter of when. And so in the terms of a benefit, if you want to keep coming back to the same cycle and the same test that God has set before you, then walk in unforgiveness. But you will end up back in the same place again and again and again. When you conquer that part, you will feel, the Bible doesn't say, it may not be a sin not to forgive, but it says to lay aside every weight. You will be able to run your race a little bit. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have to forgive again, but it's like it'll look different. But the things that you don't forgive will come back in different forms again and again and again to you. So it behooves you to forgive. And it may be with your spouse that you're not doing it, but you might end up facing that at work or in your friendship circles or whatever. But God is going to get you to understand that this is such an important part of your walk with him. And so individually and collectively. So that is a benefit of it because I feel like that freedom that comes from it. And it's like, you don't have to go back through that test again.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's very freeing. Like even, was it last week? We had an incident. I forgive, but I'm still, pray for me. I'm still.
We all
he know what I'm talking about. He know what I'm talking about. We had Raphael so graciously went and got me some things from New Orleans. Yep, and my lovely husband over here, I told him, I said, I had those big shots. Anybody from New Orleans or Louisiana, the big shots. And I was like, don't open these without me. And then we opened one together. It's fine. And there's one pineapple. I love pineapple. He even know pineapple's my favorite. Mind you, I haven't had this drink. I don't know, in like 10 years. And it's something that, you got from me back home. You can't get it in China. So one day I came home. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to drink it. I'll go in the refrigerator. Nowhere to be found. I was like, where is it? He said, oh, I finished it. I said, come on. I didn't even get one sip. Like, he said, I thought you didn't want it.
My bad.
And but the thing is though, what I'm saying is kind of freeing because actually we're getting ready. It was a Tuesday. We're getting ready to go on a date because now we're trying to be intentional about that kind of stuff. So we're getting ready to go on the date. I almost crashed out. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was so angry. I'm like, because I can't get I don't know the next time I can have this drink, but I put that aside. I had my little moment. And then he was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't go because the energy's off now. I'm like, no, it's okay. And, I decided to forgive him. And we went and we had one of the greatest dates we've had in a long time. And it's freeing even for me, even as me, I was the one who was angry. But it was so freeing just to kind of let that go. I'm like, okay, the drink is gone. And he apologized. If I'm sitting in this anger, the drink is not going to come back. And it's gonna create a bigger and bigger space between us. And for what? Like, there's no fruit coming out of this. Like, it's literally just destructive. So it was very freeing just to like set it aside, forgive him. And then we had a great and beautiful time. And it just felt really, really good and freeing. So I see what you mean when you say that. It's very freeing.
Unforgiveness, there's this quote, and people have probably heard it before. Unforgiveness is like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. Yeah. And that, the first time I heard that, it was like, oh man, like, why am I holding on to this thing thinking it's going to do something to them? Really, it is killing it would have killed the vibe of the evening. It would have like all of the stuff. And it's really true. And there's a piece of unforgiveness that I think is a bigger, there's a bigger dynamic at play, and it's pride. Yeah. You know, because we got to be humble enough to say, that's on me. I drank the drink. I know it tastes good. I blew it. I like it's on me.
You rubbing it in a little bit.
I don't want to know how it tastes.
I asked him after, I'm like, did it at least taste good? I was trying to live through him a little bit.
You know, give me a kiss.
Yeah. Let me taste it.
Then you want the man to lie. He was like, no, it tastes good. You know, that whole unforgiveness is like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. And the moment I heard that, I was like, yeah, there's freedom in, you know, asking for forgiveness. There's freedom in accepting the person's forgiveness. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be mad or angry or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But there is a mechanism to flush that emotion, or flush that. I don't know if it's just an emotion, but like flush that so it doesn't become resentment, you know, so you can take the temperature down on it and still go, all right, let me compartmentalize that. That was that. This is not a cool dinner. And there's other things we can talk about, other things we can do, and all of that. And, you know, I think that it can happen, but we have to be humble enough to recognize that, like, I offended or I am offended. And if two people can't get that part down, this is what I was going to say real quick. There's a elder at my church back home. He said something that was like game that I will never forget. You know, I was sitting with him when we first got married. This might have been like in the first 3 years or something. I was back home, and they'd been married for a long time at that point. And he was like, man, I always sat down and just at like in the moments where we were mad at each other, whatever, he was like, I just sit down and we just look at each other and go, is this thing bigger than our love? If this is bigger than our love, then all right, this is it. You know, but like if the big shot soda, pineapple soda is bigger than our love, then that's the best soda God has ever put on this planet, and we done, you know. But when he said that, and he just kind of, that was like the one-liner. He was like, I just asked her, is this bigger than our love? And we haven't said yes yet. And I was like, all right. And they've been together forever. So then you can imagine the magnitude of things that they've had to pose that question up against, you know, in life, when it's good when it's good, it's bad when it's bad, and it is what it is. And they always got back to, this is not bigger than our love. So, you know, I took that and I don't express that a lot. I've talked to you about it, but I don't like say that. But in my mind, I'm like, all right, how big is this really? You know, and some things will be big. You know, some things will be big and they'll be harder to get over or harder to work through to get over. But, you know, I think at some point in time, to stay healthy in a marriage, we will have to commit to getting over several things that we didn't sign up for. There's several things that about me that I've done and that I will do that I inadvertently signed up for that are going to happen, and vice versa. And the commitment is the forgiveness and the love, the toggle.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's really good. Just the last one. Then close it. Want to know, like, especially this is something that we deal with, me and Whitney, a lot. Like, is it healthy in a relationship, like, to forgive somebody and still bring it back when you have another?
So that's a trick one, but I want to say this. So I would say, no, it's not healthy, but it's completely normal. So we are like all talking about human nature. And I wish somebody would have given us the cheat code on how to truly forgive and forget. Because when something like that happens, you have this guard up, like all of a sudden, this new thing happened. What if this happens again? And especially early on in marriage, it's just really hard because it sets, because you're just like, this is shocking. I didn't expect this to happen. Is this who this person is? And you want to hold them to it. And it's hard, but it isn't healthy. Once again, it goes back to the fact that, and I'll just be honest, I think I'm more that way. And I was, especially early on, I was more that way than him. I was like, but then you know what you did. Like, I got to stay, vigilant.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping with one eye open. That kind of thing.
That's my ice chai. I don't really do that.
No, he does the same thing. You get your mouth ready for something, he will eat it all.
I hate to break it to you, but 20 years later, I'm still like,
he does.
You wanted the oranges?
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad.
He didn't even ask me. Or like, him and Khalil will eat everything and not even ask me, do I want a bite? Yeah. And so you still have to do that. But I do think that I don't think it's healthy, because I think about it and we always have to go back. For me, I always go back and I just thank God that we have the Father to go back to, and just check it with him. Does he do that to us? Like, literally, he is our ultimate example. So he died on the cross and he shed his blood and he washed our sins away, that even ones he knew we were going to commit over and over again. And I tell you, that's the thing that checks me. And eventually, and sometimes it's been immediately, and sometimes it's taken a little longer, if I'm being completely honest, to get to a place of where it's like, but no, you don't need to remind him, because in the Bible, it says that he throws that sin into the sea of forgetfulness. And it is hard, but that's, again, it goes back to that trust fall. It's like, I have to believe that if I fall back into my love and I fall back into who God has ordained me to be as a wife and into this marriage, that, my husband is going to honor me and he's going to do things, and that we're going to be okay if I make this decision, like you said, Winnie, to forgive. And that is healthy. Holding on to it and bringing it up over and over again is like, it's hard. It's actually keeping someone in almost like a slavery. And when God shed his blood for us, he set us free. And so we should have that. Since our marriages are likened to him and the bride of Christ, we actually do have an example of how to do that. And God does not, we don't see anywhere in the Bible. I mean, when he wrote in the sand, he said, where are your accusers? He didn't say, well, girl, you shouldn't have been in there.
Yeah.
Because you know what the word says, and you know you were wrong. And then when he saw her later on, it was like, neither do I accuse. Just go and don't do it anymore. And that's the same kind of thing that we need to be able to do. So that's my thought on it.
It's tricky. I agree. I totally agree. This is 100% human. I think that this is where time together will play out. Explaining something that has happened as a pattern or something that is.
Thank you, Mr. Raff. Come on. Explain that. I need this.
So like, and we both have done this, like talking about something that's a pattern is different than talking about the action. So like if there's something that I have done or I feel like Aisha's done, I now know I have the language. I think I have a strategy to bring it up to where I'm trying to avoid that space of going, well, you drank the drink, but if I'm talking about something bigger, or she's talking about something bigger, and I'm talking about a pattern, or she's talking about a pattern, it's difficult not to give an example of that. But I think now,
but how you do it sometimes,
19 years in, I can go, all right, look, I'm not bringing up the blah, blah, blah. I just want to talk about these three things to kind of show like, here's the thing that's under my skin, or here's so that you can illustrate across a continuum and talk about the big thing rather than like hammer on one thing and go, this the thing. Like that's not going to work, but early on, I will just put this out there. Early on, it's difficult to hear that because you're living the incidents in real time. Like I'm looking in the rear view at 19 years, and she's looking in the rear view at 19 years worth of patterns and stuff and all of the different things. where I can go, yep, well, I don't do that no more, but I did do it then. Like, okay, it's fair for her to bring that up, but you know, she fast forwarded 7 years into something else, you know what I mean? So time will help with the rhythm of how to talk about those things. And it'll be harder earlier on because they'll just seem like the world is ending with these actions that are happening in the marriage. But to get to meeting your spouse where they are, or getting to where they would like you to be within reason, like it's going to make sense for them to illustrate some points. And I think you have to be, again, humble enough to go, all right, listen, even if I disagree, I don't got to be disagreeable. I need to listen, because sometimes I wanted to disagree and I've stopped myself, and she keeps going and I'm like, oh yeah, then now that's a great point. Like the one she just made, I don't know about that one, but this one trumps that one. All right. And then you're open to like hearing what's going on. So that one is true. It takes time. Yeah. It takes time. But I said, if there's a strategy that you could use this young in your marriage, is just try. And I didn't do this well. So let me preface by saying that I did not do this well. Listen without reacting and see where the line of thinking goes, you know, and if it is beneficial and it's worth, you know, getting to a place where it needs to be forgiveness or understanding or whatever, then follow that line of thinking and then kind of go, all right, let me sit with that, rather than like, see, no, you, every time you know, like, and it's natural early on.
Yeah,
I did that.
for sure.
I did that all the time. I did that. But over time, it's like, all right, let me just listen. Because sometimes we think being quiet and listening is that we're complicit. When Ash listens to me, if I'm saying stuff, I don't think that she necessarily thinks that I'm right. She's just listening. And that's where some credibility can be, you know, where it's like, or at least she gonna listen, or at least I'm gonna listen to her. And that alone can stop a fight, you know, from happening, or
100%.
weeks of like all of the resentment. Like all right, let me hear you. I'm listening to you, you know? So.
Yeah, I think when I'm hearing him, I think that I don't even know how these steps go. Yeah. We haven't put it 1, 2, 3 because we didn't think this out. But I think it's so important to practice the pause. I think sometimes these conversations come out of emotion. And I do think that you need to take just a moment. And I mean, for me, I'll just sit in my bed and decompress or process, or I mean, it would be good if you do some prayer and devotion before and get yourself mentally in the right place instead of reacting in the moment.
In the moment, yeah.
You know, it was really good, like you said, that you were able to make a decision to still go on the date and decide that evening to move forward, which is, I think that's really good relationship maturity, because sometimes people can't do that. But I do think that it's just like practice a moment of pausing and just thinking through how big really is this really, and how do I want to like handle this? And you have to kind of die to yourself. You have to die to what you feel is right. And I will say, like Raphael says, sometimes if I'm listening, the whole time I'm listening, I'm like, okay, I'm taking that. Nope. Taking that. Nope. And I'll say, okay, I heard you and I'm going to agree with this, but we're going to just have to agree to disagree. Like, I don't feel like, and you know, a lot of the times when either one of us do that with each other in a conversation where we agree to disagree, it's like, I know myself and that wasn't my intention. So I know that that's how you took it. So I'm sorry how you felt, but I didn't do it with that in mind. And he said the same thing. Like, I didn't intend to hurt you. I see why you were hurt, but I can't say I'm sorry for doing it because I didn't do it in that spirit. And so I think that, you know, you do learn how to communicate differently. And we are perfectly good because we're being honest. Like, I'm not going to just be like, okay, I forgive. And if I do say it, it's like, he's like, okay, now you're being sarcastic. You don't really forgive. Okay, I don't care. You know, that kind of thing. So I think if you're having a true, honest conversation isn't always perfect. Like we started this conversation talking about getting over every hump and everybody's just like happy-go-lucky and fine with it. A good conversation of what may be close to perfect is saying, this part I forgive and this part I understand. I still feel like some remnants of hurt, and I don't completely agree with the way you went about that, but we've communicated with it, and I still love you, and we're moving forward.
Yeah, I like that.
So, you know what I
that's
mean?
Yeah, that's really good.
So,
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the wisdom and knowledge. We appreciate you guys. Man, we learned a lot today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's so many good nuggets, and even just now, like, we've talked to you guys a lot and talked to other people, but even every single time we get something new out of it. So we appreciate you guys so much, and thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate
This is
you
great.
all.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. We're gonna put the Instagram down on the link below, even on the screen. And also wanted you to share a little bit about the organization that you have with the sisters.
Yeah,
Women.
thank
can share,
you.
it can help a lot of people too.
Yeah, so I have an organization. The acronym is CORE. It's Courage, Optimism, Restoration Every Day. And it's just about us women, like this conversation. It has 6 pillars, and one of the pillars of CORE is marital health. Every single one of the pillars ends with the word health. And it's because I feel like that we as women, we're like onions. We have so many different layers. Yeah. And I think it's so important for us to, as we've talked about today in our discussion today, it's not about being perfect, but it's about finding that balance and being healthy. And so spiritual health, relationship health, mental health, which people don't talk about a lot and women definitely deal with, marital health, and then professional health are all some of the and then physical health, which I'm always like, I'm starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, it's a community of women that share their stories and share their truth, and just to become more healthy and whole people. So, yes.
Thanks again. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share with your family. Peace.